The air in the Remnant Banner tasted like old coffee and recycled metal. Maia Soltane leaned over the datapad, her thumb pressed against her lower lip. The signal repeated every 92 seconds. Each cycle was identical. Each cycle was wrong. Commander Hollis stood at her shoulder, arms crossed. He had not moved in 3 minutes. His crew manifest was 37 people. He kept a copy in his pocket, folded so often the paper had gone soft. He did not need to look at it. He knew every name. "Talk to me, Maia." She did not look up. The carrier wave was unlike anything in the standard registry. The modulation was too old, too deliberate. She had seen this pattern before, buried in a data shard from a dig on an asteroid that should not have had ruins. A dig the Syndicate had classified before she could publish. "This is pre-human," she said. Hollis let out a breath. That word meant something else in this sector. Pre-human meant before the Syndicate mapped the trade routes, before the Duskborn opened diplomatic channels, before the Rootmind sent its first botanical envoy to negotiate grazing rights in the Nebula Vale. Pre-human meant 400,000 years. "The signal is not encrypted," she said, "but the structure predates every known civilization in this sector. Every one." Hollis looked at the main display. The derelict moon hung against black, a pitted gray sphere with no atmosphere and no rotation. Whatever had been built there had gone silent a long time ago. "Pass the coordinates to the Syndicate," he said. "We collect a finder's fee and we leave." Maia set the datapad down. She turned to face him. Her voice was flat. "If the Syndicate gets this, humans will never see it. You know that. They will seal the site and issue a report in a language we are not cleared to read. The data will vanish into a corporate archive and we will have nothing." "We have a ship," Hollis said. "We have 37 crew who need to eat. We have bills. Give me 48 hours. He stared at her. His pale eyes squinted against the dim cabin light as if it were too bright. He was a man who had repaired every panel on the ship. He knew its limits. He knew his own. 30 hours, he said. "Not a minute more. If you are not back on board by then, I seal the lock and I file the Syndicate claim." Maia nodded. She picked up the datapad and walked toward the airlock. The docking approach was automated. The frigate's landing struts touched the station's exterior arm with a shudder that traveled through the deck plates. Maia felt it in her knees. The low hum of the Remnant Banner's engines cut out. Silence. Complete silence, the kind that made her hear her own pulse. She heard the blood moving in her ears. She heard the fabric of her suit shift as she breathed. Hollis stood behind her at the airlock control panel. 2 crew members secured the umbilical. The inner door cycled open. The smell hit her first. Ancient dust. Vacuum-sealed metal. Something that had not breathed in so long the air itself had forgotten what it felt like to move. Maia stepped through the airlock. Her boot touched the station floor. The signal stopped. She froze. The datapad in her hand went dark. The repeating waveform vanished from the display. No warning tone. No degradation. It simply stopped mid-cycle as if someone had reached out and covered a mouth. She looked at Hollis. His face told her he had reached the same conclusion at the same moment. His jaw was tight. His hands had dropped to his sides, ready. "The signal was not broadcasting," Maia whispered. Hollis said nothing. It was listening. Something on this station detected our approach and stopped transmitting. It heard us coming. The corridor stretched ahead of them. The datapad's display reflected off the corroded walls, the only light in the passage. The metal had buckled in places, warped by time and vacuum. The floor plates were etched with symbols she did not recognize. She raised the datapad. The display cast a pale blue rectangle onto the wall to her left. The symbols matched the carrier wave pattern. They were the same language, the same structure. This place had been built by whatever had sent that signal. Hollis stepped up beside her. His voice was low. "We are 30 hours from departure. You want to search this thing or do you want to talk about it?" Maia looked down the corridor. The light from her datapad did not reach the far end. The darkness there was absolute. A single light activated far down the passage. It was not a flicker, not a system cycling on. It was a deliberate illumination, a single panel coming to life at the far end of the corridor, casting her shadow long and thin across the floor. She turned to Hollis. His hand was on his sidearm. "Something waits at the other end," she said. Hollis drew his weapon. The click of the safety disengaging was loud in the silence. "Then we go meet it." The corridor swallowed their light. Maia counted her steps as she walked, her breath condensing in the cold air. 92 paces from the airlock, the passage opened without warning into a sphere. The transition was absolute, one step forward, and the walls curved away into darkness so complete it felt solid. The floor was covered in fine gray dust. It did not stir when she walked. 2 crew members stood behind them at the airlock, their flashlights cutting weak beams into the void. Hollis moved to her left, his sidearm still drawn but pointed at the deck. His jaw was tight. Then the amber glow ignited. It came from beneath the center of the chamber floor, a soft and patient light that pushed the darkness back just far enough to reveal the slab. Polished obsidian, 2 meters across. The symbols spiraled inward from the edges, each line so fine it could have been etched by a laser. Kalen Vore pushed past her before she could stop him. He was breathing hard from the walk, his bald head gleaming with sweat, and he dropped to his knees beside the slab without a word. His fingertip traced the outermost symbol. Once. Twice. "I know these," he whispered. Maia crouched beside him. "You recognize them." "2 of them?" Kalen's voice shook. "They appear in early Proto-Indo-European root systems, but they're older than the roots themselves. They're older than the language that birthed the roots." Hollis stepped closer. His light swept across the spiral. "So what do they say?" Kalen pressed his palm flat against the stone. He was silent for a long moment. "They are not words," he said. "They are instructions. This object was built, not carved." Maia felt the cold seeping through her boots. The amber glow did not flicker. It did not move. It simply existed, steady and patient, like something that had been waiting for a very long time. Hollis aimed his flashlight at the center of the spiral. The empty center. A disk of untouched obsidian, perhaps 20 centimeters across, surrounded by the converging lines. "What goes in the middle?" he asked. No one answered. The sound came from behind them, distant chimes that resonated in Maia's chest before they reached her ears. She turned. 3 forms solidified in the chamber entrance. The lead shape was a column of deep violet smoke with embers drifting at its core. It shifted and pulsed with a rhythm that felt almost like breathing. The other 2 took shape behind it, one a dense mass of slate-gray particles that hummed at a low frequency, the other a loose spiral of amber motes that drifted as if caught in a slow current. Liz spoke. The voice came from everywhere at once, from the walls and the floor and the air itself. "The Syndicate has been monitoring this location for 70 cycles." Maia stood. She did not step away from the slab. Liz drifted forward a handspan. The violet smoke coiled and uncoiled. "This find is claimed. It falls under pre-contact priority protocol. All human personnel will withdraw to your vessel and await further instruction." Hollis moved his sidearm into a low, ready position. Not aimed, not lowered. 70 cycles, Maia said. Her voice sounded flat in the spherical chamber. 70 years, you've been watching this station for 70 years. Correct. And you never entered. A pause, the embers at Liss's core pulsed once. The station's internal environment was incompatible with Duskborn physiology at the time of discovery. Environmental adaptation units were scheduled for deployment. The schedule was deprioritized. Maia looked at the slab, at the amber glow, at the empty center of the spiral. "You couldn't enter," she said. "You could never enter." Liss said nothing. "You've been watching this station for 70 years. You knew it was here, you knew what it contained, and you never once set foot in this chamber." Tarsal formed in the doorway behind Liss, the slate-gray particles condensing into a shape more angular and dense than the others. The low hum vibrated through the floor. "The humans touched it first." The voice was flat, final. "They will open it, they will do it now." Maia's thumb pressed against her lower lip. She did not notice she was doing it. Hollis cut in. "We're not opening anything until we understand what we're looking at." Tarsal's hum rose half a tone. "You will open it. This object has waited beyond your species' recorded history. It will not wait longer because your curiosity is insufficiently gratified." Kalen had not moved from his kneeling position. His hand was still pressed against the obsidian. He looked up at Maia, and she saw something in his eyes she had never seen before. Not fear, not wonder. "Recognition." "Maia," he said, "the empty center." She looked at it, the disk of unmarked stone, the spiral that pulled toward it like water toward a drain. "What about it?" Kalen's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "It's not empty, it's waiting for something to fill it." Liss extended a tendril of violet smoke toward the slab. The tendril crossed the boundary of the amber glow and touched the obsidian. Nothing happened. The symbols did not respond. The glow did not change. The slab sat dead and silent under a touch that was not meant for it. Liss withdrew. The violet smoke curled back into the column's core. Tarsal's hum vibrated through the dust on the floor. The humans touched it first. They will open it. They will do it now. Maia looked at the slab, at the symbols that predated every human language by 40,000 years, at the empty center that Kalen said was the point. She looked at Liss, at the Duskborn who had watched this place for 70 years and never crossed its threshold. The answer is no. The silence that followed was absolute. Hollis shifted his weight. The two crew members at the airlock raised their flashlights in unison. Liss's form pulsed once. You do not understand the legal framework governing precontact artifacts. The Syndicate's priority protocols override all local claim by a factor of. I understand them perfectly. Maia kept her voice level. You've been watching this station for 70 years. You had 70 years to find a human to bring here. You didn't. You sent us instead. You waited for us to find it on our own. She paused. Why? The embers at Liss's core dimmed. For a moment the violet smoke seemed to lose its shape, then it recoalesced. That information is classified above your clearance level. Tarsal stepped forward. The slate-gray particles condensed into something almost solid. The hum became a vibration that Maia felt in her teeth. You will open it. You will do it now. Or I will classify your species as an obstacle to Syndicate resource acquisition, and the full weight of corporate reallocation will be. Tarsal. The voice came from the smallest of the three, the spiral of amber motes that had drifted silently at the back of the group. Sethril. The amber spiral moved forward, passing between Liss and Tarsal. It stopped at the edge of the amber glow from the slab. The two amber lights, one from the chamber floor, one from the drifting motes, seemed to recognize each other. Sethril's voice was different, softer, almost hesitant. The human is correct. Tarsal's hum spiked. Do not. We have been watching this station for 70 cycles. Sethril's motes spun faster. We have cataloged every external reading, every energy fluctuation, every atmospheric variance, and we have never entered this chamber. Sethril turned toward Maia. The amber motes coalesced into a rough approximation of a face. Not human, but something that tried to be understood. Do you know why? Maia held very still. Tell me. Because nothing in this chamber responded to us, Sethril said. Not the corridor, not the light, not the slab. We built probes. We built remote manipulators. We built drones specifically designed to interface with unknown control systems. Nothing worked. The amber motes drifted closer. But the moment you stepped off your ship, the signal stopped. It was listening for you, not for us. Tarsal's hum dropped to a growl. You are sharing classified observation data with a primitive. Sethril did not turn. The primitive is the only one who can open it. Maia looked at the slab, the empty center, the spiral that had waited for something to fill it for longer than her species had existed. She looked at Kalen, still kneeling with his hand on the stone. She looked at Hollis, his sidearm still in his hand, his eyes asking a question she did not know how to answer. Everyone out, she said. Hollis opened his mouth. Everyone out, now I need to think. Liss's violet smoke rippled. You cannot. I can, this is my find, my species' find, and I am not going to touch it because you tell me to. She turned to face the three Duskborn forms. You've been watching for 70 years. You can wait another 12 hours. Tarsal's particles began to condense into something sharp, something threatening. Liss extended a tendril, a gesture of restraint. We will wait, Liss said. The violet smoke began to withdraw. Tarsal followed, the slate-gray particles trailing like a storm that had been denied permission to break. Sethril lingered a moment longer, the amber motes spinning slowly. We will be in the corridor, Sethril said. We will be watching. The three forms dissolved into the darkness. Maia stood alone in the amber glow. The cold seeped through her boots. The symbols spiraled inward toward the empty center. She pressed her thumb against her lower lip, and she waited for the silence to tell her what to do. The silence did not answer. The empty center stared back at her like an eye that had just opened. The pressure in the chamber shifted the moment the human woman touched the stone. Liss felt it as a compression wave, a tightening of the medium that all Duskborn inhabited. The violet particles that formed Liss's chosen shape pulled closer together, then expanded again as the wave passed through. Tarsal had given the order, approach the slab, touch it. The words had carried no weight beyond their meaning, no threat because none was needed. The Duskborn claimed this site. The humans were temporary custodians at best. Maia had not moved. She stood at the edge of the slab's glow, with her thumb pressed against her lower lip. Her eyes moved across the spiraling symbols like she was reading a sentence in the middle of a longer paragraph. "What happens when I touch it?" she asked. Tarsal's form hummed at a lower frequency, a sound that made the dust on the floor vibrate in small circles. "That is what we intend to discover." The human male stepped forward. Hollis, the one Maia called Commander. He moved between her and Tarsal with no weapon in his hands. His arms were slightly raised, palms open. A gesture Liss recognized as universal across organic species. "I am not a threat. Do not hurt me." He was unarmed. Liss's particles swirled in a pattern that approximated curiosity. The subordinate placed himself between the specialist and the threat. This was not duty. Duty followed orders. Duty was efficient. This was something else. The human had no orders to stand there. He chose the position. Liss noted the gap in understanding and set it aside for later examination. Maia touched the slab. Her fingers met the obsidian surface at the outer edge of the spiral. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the symbols did not glow. They shifted. The entire spiral rotated a quarter turn with a sound like stone grinding against stone. The marks that had been dense and continuous now formed a clear space at the center. A handprint. The shape was human. Maia looked at it for 3 full seconds. Her heartbeat reached Liss's perception through the contact point. A steady pulse carried through the stone. Fast but not afraid. Fast like someone who had been running toward something her whole life and had just found the door. She placed her hand in the center. The pressure wave hit Liss like a physical push. It was not sound and it was not vibration. It moved like thought traveling through water, dense and slow and impossible to deflect. Liss's particles compressed, then expanded, and in that fraction of a second between the two states, Liss perceived something that was not Liss's own. Maia's mind. The impression lasted less than a blink. A cascade of images and sensations that the Duskborn neural architecture had no category for. A room with rain against a window, a child's hand in hers, the smell of something burning that was not dangerous but familiar. A decision made without hesitation. I will stand here. I will not move. The loyalty was not duty. Duty had a structure, a chain of command, a reason. This was raw and uncalculated. She would put herself between the threat and the other person because that was what you did. The words that accompanied the feeling were not in a language Liss understood, but the shape of them was clear. You do not let them take the ones you love. Liss had never perceived this. The Syndicate's models classified human behavior as competition-driven. They were territorial. They formed temporary alliances for mutual advantage. They responded to threats with fight or flight. The models were precise. The models were wrong. The chamber lights came on. They were not Duskborn lights. The spectrum was shifted, tuned to frequencies that human eyes processed as white. The walls of the spherical chamber displayed a star map in colors that Liss's perception struggled to interpret. The stars were arranged in patterns Liss did not recognize. The region of space was not on any syndicate chart. Liss felt something unfamiliar. A gap. A place in Liss's knowledge that had no corresponding data. Liss did not know what this was. Liss was supposed to know. Maia pulled her hand away. The map vanished. The symbols on the slab rotated back to their original positions. The chamber returned to amber dimness as if nothing had happened. Silence held for 4 heartbeats. Tarsal's form solidified, the slate-gray particles drawing into a denser configuration. The low hum that accompanied Tarsal's presence increased in frequency by a measurable amount. Activated again. The words were not a request. Maia turned from the slab. Her face was pale and her hand was trembling, not from fear. Liss recognized the tremor of someone who had just confirmed a hypothesis so large it changed everything she thought she knew. "No," she said. The human commander moved again, not toward Tarsal this time. He positioned himself beside Maia with his shoulder aligned to hers, a wall of 2 bodies. The gesture was so deliberate that even Sethril noticed. The amber motes that formed the younger Duskborn's shape drifted closer, drawn by the novelty. Tarsal's form pulsed. The particles vibrated against each other, creating a sound like distant thunder. "The artifact is syndicate property. You will comply." Maia looked at Tarsal directly. Her eyes did not lower. Her heartbeat remained steady. "That star map showed a location," she said. "A specific point in space. I know where it is." She paused. Her thumb found her lower lip again and pressed. "That location is a human colony world. It's called Haven's Anchor. It was lost 12,000 years ago." The words settled into the chamber like dust. Kalen Vore had gone still at the edge of the slab. His small hands were pressed flat against his knees. His voice came out rough, the voice of a man who did not want to ask the question because he already knew the answer. "How many people were on Haven's Anchor?" Maia did not look at him. She kept her eyes on Tarsal. 42,000. The number hung in the air. Liz processed it. 42,000 organics. A single settlement, lost for 12,000 cycles. The slab was not an archive at all. It was a navigation beacon. And it had just called home. The amber motes of Sethral's form swirled faster. "It answered her," Sethril said. The younger Duskborn's voice carried no corporate discipline, only wonder. The beacon recognized her species. It was waiting for a human hand. Liz's particles pulled into a tighter column. The pressure wave from the touch still resonated at the edges of Liz's perception. The shared moment, the loyalty that had no cause, the image of a child's hand and rain against glass. The syndicate's models were wrong, and Tarsal was still giving orders. The common room of the Remnant Banner smelled like sweat and recycled air. 9 people crammed around a table that was never designed for 9 people. Hollis stood at the head of it, his palm flat on the scarred surface. He felt the grooves under his hand, tool marks, boot prints. Someone had carved a small star into the corner years before he ever took command of this ship. Maia sat to his left, Kalen to his right. The rest of the crew filled the remaining seats, their faces drawn and tired. They had heard the syndicate's terms through the ship's speakers. They had heard Tarsal's cold voice demanding compliance. Hollis let the silence stretch for 3 full breaths. 72 hours, he said. That is how long we have before Tarsal takes the slab by force. Darius leaned forward. He was the propulsion specialist, a man with grease permanently embedded in his knuckles and a calm voice that rarely rose above a murmur. "What exactly do they want?" Maia answered before Hollis could. The technology, the star map, the location of any surviving human colonies from before the regression. Kalen adjusted his spectacles with small, precise hands. The syndicate controls this sector. They control the salvage permits. They control the fuel. They have every legal claim. Legal, Maia said, not moral. Kalen did not argue. He simply looked at her with the patience of a man who had spent 68 years watching empires make their own laws. Hollis turned to Maia. "What is on Haven's Anchor?" She pressed her thumb against her lower lip, that old gesture. He had seen her do it a dozen times in the past 2 days. "I do not know," she said. "The records from that era are myth and fragment. We call it Haven's Anchor because the old texts say it was the last place the ships went. The last place before the regression." "Before we forgot," Kalen said quietly. Hollis waited. There was more. He could see it in the way Kalen's hands had stopped moving. Kalen looked down at the table. "The slab symbols contain a warning. I have been translating in my quarters. The spiral says this. The center must remain empty. The door only opens one way." The room went silent. The life support hummed with a variable pitch. A filter needed replacing. Hollis noticed that detail the way he noticed everything on his ship. It was a ship he had built with his own hands. He knew every flaw. "What does that mean?" he asked. Kalen shook his head. "I do not know, but the grammar suggests a past tense. The door only ever opened one way. It has already been used." Darius shifted in his seat. "Already used for what?" No one answered. Hollis looked at his crew. He saw faces he had known for years. Darius, Vasquez at the navigation station, the twin brothers who ran the cargo bay, their names lost in a running joke about who was older. People who had followed him into deep space because he promised them a better life. The syndicate had offered a finder's fee, a generous one, enough to refuel, repair, resupply, enough to keep the banner flying for another 2 years. He looked at Maia. She was not looking at him. She was staring at the star carved into the table's corner. Her jaw was set. He knew what she would do. She would not walk away from the slab. She would not let the syndicate bury the truth under classification and corporate secrecy. She would fight. She would lose, but she would not walk away. And he realized he was not choosing between the slab and the fee. He was choosing between his crew's safety and a truth that might burn the entire syndicate's understanding of history. The hum of the life support pitched higher. A loose component, he would fix it later. He stood. "We will not hand over the slab," he said. The crew looked at him. No one spoke. "We will jump to the coordinates on the star map. We will find Haven's anchor and whatever is there before the syndicate can stop us." The crew did not cheer. They looked at him with the quiet acceptance of people who had known he would say this. They had followed him this far. They would follow him further. Darius broke the silence. "How do we avoid Duskborn pursuit?" Hollis met his eyes. "We use the void sail." The room stirred. The void sail was a fragment, a broken piece of ancient tech that no one fully understood. It was stored in the cargo bay, wrapped in cloth, considered a curiosity rather than a tool. No one asked where they would find a void pocket. Maia told them, "The pocket is at the star map's midpoint. The slab was designed to guide ships through it." Kalen looked up sharply. "That is not a coincidence." "Nothing about this is a coincidence," Hollis said. "We have 48 hours to prepare. We jump at the end of the shift." He looked at the crew. One by one, they nodded. Darius stood first. He did not say anything. He simply walked toward the door, already reaching for his work gloves. The others followed. They moved with the efficiency of people who had done hard things before. Maia stayed seated. She was still looking at the star carved into the table. "You did not have to choose this," she said quietly. "Yes, I did," Hollis said, "and I would do it again." She looked up at him. Her eyes were wet, but she was not crying. She was angry, not at him, at the weight of the decision he had just made. "We might not survive this," she said. He knew that. He had known at the moment he opened his mouth, but he had also known something else. If we hand over the slab, we lose something we cannot get back. Not just the technology, not just the history. We lose the chance to know who we were before we forgot. He reached down and touched the carved star on the table. A small thing, a human thing. "We find out what is on Haven's anchor," he said, "or we die trying." Maia stood. She did not shake his hand. She did not thank him. She walked toward the door and paused with her hand on the frame. Sethril was in the corridor. The amber glow leaked under the door, a faint pulse of light that had been there the entire time, listening. Hollis watched the light flicker. Then he walked to the bridge. The deck plates shuddered beneath Maia's feet. A low, rhythmic vibration traveled up through her boots and into her spine. The Remnant Banner was under full acceleration, and every panel on the bridge hummed with strain. Hollis stood at the helm console, both hands gripping the edge. His pale eyes were fixed on the forward display, nothing but star-streaked darkness. "We're 30 seconds from the coordinates," he said. His voice was flat, controlled. "Darius, status on the sail." "Deployment arm is green," Darius called from the engineering station. "But I'm reading fluctuations in the pocket. It's not stable." Maia pressed her thumb against her lower lip. The datapad in her other hand weighed nothing, but she felt the pressure of it like a physical thing. The slab, they had left it behind. Tarsal had it now. Tarsal had everything. A warning chime cut through the bridge. Kalen's voice rose from the sensor station. 3 contacts, Syndicate pursuit vessels. They just exited the node at the system's edge. Hollis didn't turn. Time to intercept. 4 minutes, maybe 3.5 if they pushed their drives. Plenty of time. Hollis reached up and pressed a sequence of commands into the helm console, deploying the sail now. The vibration changed, deepened. A new sound crawled through the hull, a sound like nothing Maia had ever heard. It was not metal groaning or thrusters burning. It was something sliding against the fabric of space itself. The forward display flickered. Then it went dark. Not the dark of empty space, not the dark of a dead screen. It was the dark of something that swallowed light. A patch of the display showed nothing. No stars, no dust, no static. Just an absence so complete it seemed to pull at her eyes. "That's it," Hollis breathed. "That's the void pocket." Maia felt her chest tighten. The pocket was a tear in space, a wound in the universe, and they were about to fly into it. "Deploying sail," Darius said. On the display, a sliver of reflected light appeared at the edge of the darkness. The void sail unfurled. It was a sheet of material so thin it barely existed, a ripple of nothing that caught the distortion of the pocket and pulled. The Remnant Banner lurched. Maia grabbed the edge of the nearest console. Her wrist twisted. Something cracked inside the joint. Pain flared hot and sharp, and she bit down on a gasp. "Contacts are firing," Kalen said. "Incoming." A bolt of charged particles struck the aft section. The deck slammed sideways. Maia's grip slipped and she hit the bulkhead hard. Her shoulder took the impact. The air left her lungs in a rush. Hollis shouted something she didn't catch. The display went white, then it went black. Absolute darkness. No stars, no light. The Remnant Banner was inside the void pocket. The vibration stopped. The sound stopped. Maia could hear her own heartbeat. She could hear the blood moving in her ears. She could hear nothing else. She held her breath without noticing. A voice crackled through the internal system. "Liss." The Duskborn liaison's tone was thin, strained. "Captain Hollis, the sail is degrading. The pocket is unstable. You have roughly 90 seconds before the sail fails." 90 seconds. Maia pushed herself upright. Her wrist screamed. She ignored it. "Where are we?" she demanded. "Nowhere," Liss said. "That is the nature of the pocket. It is a place between places. You were not meant to traverse it without the key." The key, the slab. Maia's stomach dropped. She grabbed the datapad. Her fingers moved across the screen, pulling up the symbol sequence she had recorded on the station. The spirals, the markings that predated every human language, the instructions. She stared at them. They were not navigation instructions. They were a key, a lock, and they had left it behind. "The slab," she said, her voice came out thin. "We need it. The symbols are the lock mechanism. Without it, we can't." Kalen was already moving. He crossed the bridge in 3 quick steps and took the datapad from her hand. His small fingers traced the screen. His lips moved silently. "I remember," he said. "I have been studying these symbols for 3 days. I remember every sequence." He looked at her. His eyes were bright. "I can reconstruct it. I can enter the commands manually." "Then do it," Hollis said. "Now." Kalen began to recite. The symbols came out in a stream, alien sounds that his mouth shaped with surprising accuracy. Maia typed. Her good hand worked the datapad while her injured wrist throbbed. 40 seconds. 30. The ship shuddered. A sound came through the hull, a tearing sound. The sail was failing. Kalen's voice quickened. The final sequence. Maia's fingers hammered the last command. 20 seconds. The Remnant Banner dropped out of the pocket. The transition was violent. Maia's vision swung sideways as the ship pitched. Gravity clutched at her. Then it released. She blinked. The forward display was full of stars. Hundreds of them. Thousands. A field of light so bright it made her eyes water. But the constellations were wrong. She knew the night sky. She had spent years studying it, mapping it, memorizing the positions of known sectors and syndicate territories. None of this matched. The stars were the wrong color. The clusters were in the wrong places. They were not in syndicate space. They were not in any charted sector. Kalen was standing at the sensor station. His hands hung at his sides. He was staring at the display with an expression she had never seen on his face before. "We crossed a distance that should have taken years," he said. "The void sail did what the slab promised." He paused. "It brought us home." Maia's throat tightened. He corrected himself. "It brought us to where home used to be. The question is whether anything still lives there." Hollis turned from the helm. His face was drawn. "Sensors, full sweep. I want a readout on everything in this system." Darius worked his console. The display shifted. A new image resolved. A planet. It was green and blue, wrapped in swirling cloud. The oceans caught the light of the distant star and threw it back in a soft shimmer. Atmosphere, water, the signs of a living world. The planet in the display. Home. Maia felt her knees go weak. She gripped the console to stay upright. "The long-range sensors are picking up something else," Darius said. His voice was strange, uncertain. "A power signature on the surface. It's weak, but it's there." Kalen turned to look at her. His face was pale. "It's responding," he said. "The power source is responding to something." Maia looked down at the datapad in her hand. The symbol sequence was still displayed, the key they had reconstructed from memory. The planet, the power signature. Something on the surface had heard them, and it was waiting. The landing craft shuddered as it pushed through the thick atmosphere. Amber light flooded the cockpit, thick and honey-like, casting long shadows across Maia's face. She pressed her good hand against the viewport and felt the vibration of the descent through her palm. The ground appeared slowly through the haze. Domes, pale green and smooth, rising from the earth like half-buried eggs. Translucent tunnels connected them, pulsing with faint internal light. The structures were not built. They had grown. The surface was veined with darker green lines, organic and deliberate. Hollis leaned over her shoulder. His breath was shallow. "That's not a ruin." "No," Maia said. "It's a city." The landing platform was flat and gray, cut from stone that matched the surrounding soil. Dara set them down with a soft jolt. The engines whined down to silence. Maia looked at the container on the deck. Liss's form roiled inside the stabilized field, violet smoke coiling and uncoiling. The Duskborn had requested this arrangement, confinement in exchange for observation. A shape that could not threaten, a voice that could still speak. Kalen stood by the hatch, datapad in hand. His knuckles were white. "If they're hostile." "They won't be," Maia said. She did not know if she believed it. The hatch opened. The air hit her first, warm and damp, heavy with the smell of ozone and growing things. Living vegetation, not the recycled chemical breath of a ship. Maia stepped onto the platform and felt the weight of a real sky above her for the first time in weeks. The domes were not abandoned. Figures emerged from the nearest tunnel. They walked with a steady, unhurried gait. Human, taller than Maia, every one of them. Their skin was pale, their eyes dark and deep-set. They wore clothing woven from plant fiber, simple wraps and tunics, undyed and unadorned. They carried no weapons. The lead figure stopped at the edge of the platform. A woman, Maia thought, though the features were androgynous and ageless. The woman's gaze moved across the landing craft, across the crew, and settled on Maia. She spoke. The language was unfamiliar, rolling and soft, with consonants that clicked at the back of the throat. Kalen stepped forward, his voice cracked with excitement. That's an archaic dialect, Proto-Indo-European roots, but older, much older. I can catch fragments," she said. He paused, his face shifted. "She said we came through the door." The lead figure spoke again. Kalen translated slowly, his voice dropping. "She said, you came through the door is closed now. Why did you open it again?" Maia raised both hands, palms open. The gesture was universal, no weapons, no threat. Her broken wrist throbbed as she lifted it, the swelling visible even in the amber light. The lead figure stopped talking. She studied Maia's raised hands, then her eyes dropped to the swollen wrist. A long pause. The woman's expression did not change, but something shifted in her posture, less guarded, more curious. She spoke again, one word. Kalen's breath caught. "Door." She said the door was the void pocket. It was not a natural phenomenon, Maia. It was a barrier. They built it. They closed it deliberately. "When?" Maia asked. Kalen asked the question in the archaic tongue. The woman answered, Kalen's face drained of color. 12,000 years ago. Hollis let out a low breath. 12,000 years. They've been here that long. The woman's gaze shifted to the container. She stared at the swirling violet form inside. Recognition flickered across her face. Not surprise, recognition. She had seen Duskborn before. Liss's voice came through the container's speaker, quiet and measured. "Why would you isolate yourselves? What were you hiding from?" The woman answered in clear syndicate language, fluent, unaccented. "Because they were coming. We saw them through the door before we closed it, the Duskborn. We saw what they would become. We chose to wait." Silence. Maia felt her knees go weak. She sat down on the platform hard, her legs refusing to hold her. The obsidian slab, the void pocket, the test. It had never been about navigation. It had never been about a beacon. The colony was a vault. The people who built it knew about the Duskborn Syndicate before the Syndicate existed. They had seen the future through whatever the door was, a window in time, a crack in causality, and they had seen what the Duskborn would become. The corporate oligarchy, the cold efficiency, the classification of all organic life into categories of useful, harmless, or obstacle. They had closed the door. They had hidden here for 12,000 years, waiting. Waiting for what? Maia looked at the woman. "You knew we would come, how?" The woman's eyes were dark and steady. "The center must remain empty. The door only opens one way. We built that lock. Only one kind of mind could open it. The kind that would stand between a threat and someone smaller. The kind that would refuse to trade loyalty for safety. The Duskborn could never enter because they could never understand that instinct. They could not value what they could not feel." Maia's throat tightened. She thought of Hollis stepping between her and Tarsal, unarmed, no hesitation. She thought of the crew accepting the void sail jump with nothing but silence and trust. The slab had not been a test of intelligence. It had been a test of character. Liz spoke again. The Duskborn's voice was quieter now. We could not have passed. No, the woman said. You could not. A long pause. Liz's form inside the container stilled, the violet smoke ceasing its restless motion. The Duskborn said nothing else. A second figure stepped forward from the tunnel behind the woman. This one was older, with white hair cropped close to the scalp and a face deeply lined by years. The older figure moved with the careful economy of someone who had lived a very long time. The older figure looked at the container, at Liz. You brought one of them through the door, the older figure said. The voice was low and steady, not hostile, assessing. That was not part of the plan. You have changed the equation. Maia got to her feet, her wrist screamed. She ignored it. I didn't know what the plan was, I still don't. The older figure's eyes met hers. We have a great deal to discuss. The landing craft hatch cycled shut behind them. Maia walked into the circular chamber beneath the main dome and stopped. The walls breathed. Not a metaphor, the pale green moss that covered every surface pulsed in a slow, deliberate rhythm. It matched her heartbeat. She pressed her palm against her chest and felt the syncopation. Her own pulse, the colony's pulse, the same. Hollis stood at her shoulder, his hand resting on the grip of his sidearm. A habit now, a tell. He was scanning the room for threats the way he had scanned 1,000 salvage corridors. Old instincts died hard. The 3 colony elders waited at the chamber's center. They stood in a triangle, their pale faces unreadable in the green glow. They had been standing there for 12,000 years, waiting. Kalen entered last. He was carrying a datapad, but his hands were shaking. He had not stopped shaking since the translation. Maia did not blame him. The lead elder was a woman with silver hair that fell to her waist and eyes the color of shallow water. She spoke in the old tongue. Kalen translated. She said, You have come through the door. You are the first. We did not know if anyone would come. Maia said, We did not know you existed. The elder smiled. It was a small thing, a fraction of a movement. We knew you existed. We have been watching. Liz formed in the corner of the chamber. The Duskborn's violet smoke coalesced slowly, deliberately. The form was different now, less diffuse, more humanoid. Liz was adapting without conscious choice. Maia watched the embers drift at the core and wondered what Liz was feeling. Tarsal was not here. Tarsal was on a syndicate vessel somewhere in the void, holding an obsidian slab that did nothing without a human hand. Sethril was in the landing craft under guard. Hollis had insisted. Maia turned back to the elders. You said the colony was a vault, a hiding place, but you were watching. You saw what happened to us. The lead elder nodded. We activated listening devices at the portal's edge. We monitored the syndicate's growth. We watched the Duskborn absorb species after species. We watched them consume entire civilizations. He did not say we. The elder's expression did not change. He watched human civilization regress. We saw you fragment. We saw you lose technology. He saw you forget your own history. Maia's wrist throbbed. The pain was a dull, constant reminder. She had not taken anything for it. She wanted to feel it. She wanted to remember. You have weapons, she said. The elder inclined her head. And knowledge. Another inclination. Then why did you wait? Why not reach out? Why not help? The elder stepped forward. Her bare feet made no sound on the stone floor. He reached out because help was not what you needed. You needed to remember who you were. He could not give you that. He could only wait. Hollis spoke. His voice was rough. What happens now? The elder turned to him. She studied his face for a long moment. Then she said, the colony has weapons and knowledge that could shift the balance of power in the sector. He will not share them unless the syndicate is faced with an existential choice. Maia felt the words land in her chest. What choice? The syndicate must choose between absorbing humanity and respecting human sovereignty. If they choose absorption, the colony will release a technology that destroys the Duskborn ability to form collective consciousness. It will break their entire civilization. Liz's form flickered. The violet smoke tightened into something almost solid. A voice emerged from the embers. It was layered, harmonic, and genuinely afraid. The syndicate will not choose sovereignty. Maia looked at Liz. You sound certain. Liz's form shifted. The humanoid outline sharpened. Shoulders, a curve that suggested a neck. I know my people. He have never chosen sovereignty for any species. He have absorbed 57 civilizations. He have never once granted autonomy. Maia held Liss's gaze. The embers at the core pulsed in a rhythm that did not match her heartbeat. The Syndicate has never faced a human who was not a commodity. Liss was silent. That is about to change. Hollis stepped forward. What happens if the Syndicate chooses coexistence? The lead elder answered. His will share technology. His will help the Syndicate solve the resource crisis that drives their expansion. His will offer partnership. But you do not believe they will choose it. The elder's silence was answer enough. Maia turned to Liss. The Duskborn stood apart from the elders, apart from the humans, a bridge that did not know it was a bridge. What would you choose? The question hung in the greenlit air. The moss pulsed. The water ran somewhere deep in the colony, a steady, patient sound. Liss's form shifted again. The violet smoke pulled inward. The embers dimmed. For a moment, Maia thought the Duskborn was withdrawing, retreating into the containment protocols that had held Liss for cycles. Then Liss spoke. I have been changed by contact with you. The words were quiet. The harmonic layers thinned until only one voice remained, a single thread of sound. I have seen loyalty. I have seen love. I have seen sacrifice. These are concepts the Syndicate has no word for. Maia did not move. I will return to the Syndicate. I will report what I have seen. I cannot guarantee the outcome. Liss's form stabilized. The humanoid shape held. The embers at the core glowed steady and warm. But I will try. Maia stood. Her wrist ached. Her body was exhausted. Her mind was still racing through 1,000 calculations, and none of them mattered. She looked at the three elders. She looked at the moss that breathed in rhythm with her heart. She looked at Kalen, who had stopped shaking and was watching her with something like hope. She looked at Hollis. He was watching the exits. He was watching the elders. He was watching everything. But when her eyes met his, he nodded once. She turned to the lead elder. The Syndicate's choice does not matter. The elder's expression did not change. What matters is that humanity has a choice now. For the first time since the regression, we decide our own future. She stepped forward. Her boots echoed on the stone. You have waited 12,000 years for this moment. I will not waste it. The elder's silver hair caught the green light. Her eyes were unreadable. We will contact the Syndicate directly. We will offer a treaty. She paused. And if they refuse, we will demonstrate exactly why humans were worth hiding from. The chamber was silent. The water ran, the moss pulsed. The moment stretched like a held breath. Then the lead elder bowed her head. Very well. Maia exhaled. She had not realized she had been holding her breath. She turned to Liss. The Duskborn stood at the edge of the group, apart but present. The humanoid form held steady. Maia extended her hand. Liss hesitated. The violet smoke coiled. The embers flickered. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then Liss's form solidified. A tendril of violet smoke extended. It wrapped around Maia's fingers. The contact was warm. Liss spoke. The voice was still quiet, still singular, but it carried weight now. I will translate. They will hear the truth from me. Maia nodded. She did not let go. She looked up through the dome. The amber light of the colony's sun was fading toward evening. Long shadows stretched across the green glass. Tomorrow, she would speak to the Syndicate. Tomorrow, she would offer them a choice they had never had to make. But tonight, for the first time in her life, she belonged somewhere. The door was open. And she was not afraid.